Hey, Michael, how's it going?
What's up, Zaya? How are you today, man?
How are you? How are you? Fancy seeing you here.
Yeah, it's crazy. What's going on, my man?
Doing well, doing well. Can't believe we got a chance to get you on today. Thank you very much. I know it's a Friday, so hopefully we won't take up too much of your time, so we get you ready.
No, it's an honor for me, my man. It's an honor to be here with you today.
Michael, can you hear me clearly?
I hear you very, very well. You look handsome today, by the way. I can see your face, a little trim. Look good, man.
If I can be half as handsome as you, I'm doing something right.
Ah, grazie, my friend. Grazie, grazie.
Awesome, thank you. Looks like we're good to begin. So yeah, good afternoon, Michael, and thank you for joining. Can't begin to explain how humble I am for you to join. I know I'm sure you're very busy, especially during these times. But again, thank you for joining. And again, it's an honor of mine to have you on MovieJunk. Thank you very much for joining today.
You're the man, brother. You're the man.
So for those of you that don't know, but I'm sure everyone knows Michael Cavalieri. So Michael Cavalieri is extremely famous for playing Ned Randall in The Next Karate Kid. Came out in 1994, starring alongside another well-known actress named Hilary Swank. So this was the fourth Next Karate Kid movie. Selfishly, Michael, I know you as well from Sopranos. Sopranos is my favorite TV show. You were Gary LaManna. You were.
I was hanging from the tree. Gary LaManna hanging from the tree.
And if you guys remember the Gary LaManna role, this was Feach LaManna's nephew. So Robert Loggia's nephew. So we'll definitely get into that. But again, thank you for joining. And also a bunch of other movies too. The Stonecutter had also been in Last Man Standing with Bruce Willis. And also too, you've been working on, for the last few years now, a passion project.
Yes.
Of yours, and then which you actually starred, directed, and wrote. This is an autobiographical.
Yes.
Ritornato. And again, so.
Ritornato from my Sicilian friends. Ritornato, the best, number one.
And again, I had the privilege of meeting Michael this past weekend. And again, it's so ironic. I mean, I was just watching The Next Karate Kid. I was actually binge watching the Karate Kid movie. So as you guys know, The Next Karate Kid is the fourth movie.
Right.
And then a few days later, I'm meeting the man himself, the villain. But I guess,
I'm the villain. This is right.
Call you the villain. I mean, from a certain perspective, I mean, everyone kind of has their own motives. But the man opposed Hilary Swank.
Yes. The bully, I guess they call me everywhere I go. All the girls get mad at me. But then they meet me and they like me, so it's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so actually, we'll kind of just jump right into it, Michael. So The Next Kid was your first major motion picture. Was that correct?
Yeah, that was my first big opportunity to belong in Hollywood, as they say. So it was such a privilege for me. Crazy story.
On there. So how did you eventually get into acting? I mean, this was the early 90s. I mean, when I think early 90s, I'm thinking of Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, all these guys. But like, kind of, what was Hollywood like in the early 90s?
Well, it's funny. I was working on Wall Street for a while after I graduated college. And then I would work the night shift. And I remember one night I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? What am I doing with my life? I'm sitting here in a suit and tie punching numbers in. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And a few days later, I was riding on a train, and this guy came over to me, kind of sat next to me, and he said to me, you got a good look. I started talking to me, and he handed me his card. And I'm thinking, this guy's a weirdo. What does he want? So I looked at the card, and he was a big talent agent at J. Michael Bloom. And a few weeks later, I called him. He called me into his office, and that's how it started. He brought me to Los Angeles. So that was my first jump in. And he asked me to read. I remember being in his office for the first time. He goes, read this. And I'm like, what? He goes, just read this. And I said, okay. And I read it. He goes, you're a natural. And he said, I want to start sending you out. And then he sent me out, and I got my first job actually in a soap opera, small part in As the World Turns, like a little bit part. And then we went to Los Angeles. So it was a journey.
And how did you hear about the part in Next Karate Kid? How did you get to the audition? How did you even get your foot through the door?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I was working in a nightclub called Alzato's on, well, Lila Alzato used to own on La Cienega when I first moved. I worked in nightclubs at night. I was struggling, trying to be an actor, as we all are. And I had a really small agent, a great guy named Steven Adams. He was just starting out as well. And he took a liking to me and he was very supportive. And out of the blue one day, he called me. He goes, listen, he goes, I got a meeting for you. I said, okay. And he goes, wear a leather jacket. I said, okay. So there was no script, no anything. And he goes, just pick up the sides there. And I picked up the sides and I read it and I walked in and the casting director was Joy Todd, who was pretty, I didn't know at the time, but I found out later that she was a pretty famous casting director out of New York. So I read the scene and then she goes, take your jacket off. And I took my jacket off. I was wearing a T-shirt. And she goes, oh, you work out? I said, yeah, I'll work out a little bit. She goes, well, okay, great. That was it. So I left. Didn't think anything of it. Driving my Dodge Colt with the ripped seats and my dog hair everywhere. And I'm going back to the nightclub to work. And a few weeks later, they called again. And they said, you got to go back. And I'm like, all right, what do I do? They go, same thing. Went back, leather jacket, T-shirt. This time there was 2 or 3 people in the room. I was like, okay, cool. So I read, da-da-da, thank you. I left. So the last time, it was about a month later, and I remember I was working out at Gold's Gym. Never forget that. And I got a call at the desk. And Michael Cavalieri. And it was him. He goes, listen, you got to go change. You got to be at Warner Brothers in 1 hour. I'm like, what? I'm at the gym. He goes, just go change, put on whatever. You got to go back. Went back again. And this time there was like, 4 or 5 guys there and me, and then a couple of girls. And they started mixing and matching people or whatever. So I did the audition, and, that was it. I said, all right, that's it, I guess, right? Nope. One more time. The last time they called me, I screen test, and it was me and another guy and with Hillary. And I never forget because, I had just lost my mother maybe a year previous, and my father was very ill, so I was struggling, man. I was working in nightclubs, and I didn't want to do that anymore. It was just, my heart was not there. So I remember going to the meeting, and it was just 2 of us sitting there, on this, like, by the office on the stairs. And, we're looking at each other. We're both struggling artists trying to survive in this town. It's very difficult. You know what I mean? So, but I had no compassion. I was going for the throat. It didn't matter. I wanted this job bad. So I remember I went in first. And I did my audition. And I think it went fairly well. And they said to me, wait outside. Jerry Weintraub, one of the best producers ever. He was a great man from New York, the best. And Chris Kane was the director, Dean Kane's father. Superman. And
I loved him. He directed Gone Fishing with Joe Pesci.
yeah. Young Guns.
Guns also, yeah.
Stone Boy with Robert Duvall.
Yep.
Yeah. So they told me to wait outside. The other guy went in. I was waiting outside, and then he came out. We're both like just looking at each other, like, And I'm thinking, oh, man, who's getting this job? All of a sudden I hear my name. I'm like, shit, I didn't get this. I know. I'm pissed off, So I walk in, and they sat me down, and Jerry sitting like with his feet up, like typical Hollywood producer, sitting with his legs up on the desk, you know what I mean? And he's like, so kid, tell me exactly where you're from. And so I grew up in, my family's from the Queens and the Bronx and New York. He goes, me too. He goes, so you got an agent? Who's your agent? And I said, well, I got this and I got this little agent. He goes, okay, you got the part. I'm like, what? He goes, you got the part. I jumped over his desk, crying, and I put him in a bear hug. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm crying, hugging him, and then I'm hugging the director, and I'm like, oh, my God, tears. And I said, wow. He goes, we'll see you in Boston. You'll be there for a few months. I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I left, and I'll never forget this because this happened to me so many times. I left happy, but I saw the other actor leave dejected. And that was me, and that's been me many times later. But I remember driving over in Cahuenga Boulevard past the studios, and I broke down.
It's amazing. It's awesome. No, man,
Yeah.
the journey just
Think
sounds,
about my mother, you know?
yeah, no, and well, I definitely want to get a little bit into that a
Yeah.
little bit, but that journey just sounds amazing. It just seems
Yeah.
like some
With
of,
no money, Zaya, no money, nothing. Driving over that hill and you're thinking, you know what? I kind of belong finally. It's like this world when you went from, your mother being sick and working on Wall Street and trying to struggle and fight. And all of a sudden you're in the biggest franchise
yeah,
in the world at the time. Because I used to watch it. I was a fan of Ralph. I was a fan of Pat. Like, I thought he was brilliant.
yeah,
So to watch that and to be part of that was just, it was mind blowing to me.
yeah.
It's like, what's going on? So really that hit me hard at the heart, so that was the experience.
Well, for a lot of the Karate Kid fans, I mean, like Pat Morita's huge, Ralph Macchio's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
actually a huge Michael Ironside fan.
Michael's good. Michael's great.
I mean, he
I got stories with Michael too, I tell you. It's really funny stories, but he was great.
and Michael, I mean, for me, like, from Total Recall, Free
Sure.
Room, he was in
Yeah, he's great.
Determination. Since you mentioned some funny stories, can you share one on Michael Ironside?
Sure. I remember my
Favorite actor.
that's my first movie. It's my first movie. And we're shooting a school scene out in Boston outside this high school. And he was like challenging me. He was kind of like trying to see if I could hit the mark, hit the dialogue, do the work. You know what I mean? He was seeing what he had. He was testing the waters. You know what I mean? And I remember we had to do the first scene. It was one of the scenes where I come out of we do the bungee jump and I come down and I come out the door and I'm like, whatever. And I did the scene and I hit my mark. It was like the first take. And Laszlo Kovacs, who was like a brilliant, one of the most brilliant cinematographers ever in the world, came over to me and goes, "You're beautiful." He says, "You're beautiful." And I said, and Michael Ironside looked at me and he went, and I said, "There you go. I'm all right." And then that was it. That was kind of it was like the test, the veteran and the rookie, and you're trying to, and we were a team. Yeah. But I think he was also using us psychologically because he was trying to get me as a character to do something and whatever. So he was great, Michael. Good man. Yeah. Really great man.
Yeah, I mean, also too, like this movie was different from the first three Karate Kid movies. So the first three Karate Kid movies, all the villains, the opponents, I mean, there was legendary karate matches.
Sure.
These guys are martial artists. This is more army focused, combat fighting, street fighting. Did you have any
dirty fighting? Dirty fighting.
Dirty fighting. Did you training in any of this, or did you have
I was an athlete. I was a collegiate athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life. I kickboxed for many years. I also worked out with Master Pat Johnson. He was the stunt coordinator for a long time. But previous to that, I kickboxed for 15 years. So I was able to do a lot of stuff and being athletic. So I did all my stunts. So that was, but yeah, it was more of a street brawl. But unfortunately, I couldn't brawl the way I really wanted to brawl because I was fighting a woman at the time, so it was a little bit of a struggle for me to try to find the right place to assert myself and not to push too hard. And Hillary and I would rehearse, and she was great, so I was trying to figure out how to work it so it was believable, at the time. So, and it's way, what I find interesting, it's way ahead of its time because she's a girl who took control in a lot of ways and fought back, and I think that's really timely, and I think that's why in the Miyagi universe, this is a really classic part of it because it's a woman. And look what's going on today, the women action heroes. And she was the first. She was the first who kicked some guy's butt, and my butt, actually. And so I think being part of that, it makes it really a special thing,
Yeah. Well, what's amazing too is that, like for me, the first three Karate Kid movies, I mean, for a lot of this next generation and teenagers and kids, especially with how, the Disney Channel was around, I felt like I saw the next Karate Kid more than the first three Karate Kids.
Sure.
Kind of a part of my childhood, you know what I mean? And seeing Hilary Swank. And I actually remember more lines from the next Karate Kid. That's amazing. And I got to ask, what was...
Uh-oh.
What was Pat Morita like? How was it like going ahead with, well, very briefly going head to head with Mr. Miyagi. What was that like?
I'm going to tell you a story about Pat. Pat is brilliant. There's nothing like him. Without him, there's no movie. Without Mr. Miyagi, he's a superhero before the time. He's a superhero without like guns and knives, and he's a special superhero who got an Academy Award nomination for this film. So I remember meeting him at the read-through, and I'm like, wow, Mr. Miyagi, are you kidding me right now? He gave me a hug, and this and that. We talked for a few minutes, and I remember being with Pat. We had to do a reshoot maybe 3 months after the film wrapped up, and I had to do this, you know, an emotional moment with Dugan to try to make sure that Ned gets over that hump of a bully to maybe growing up and learning that maybe what he did was not the right thing, obviously, and try to come full circle. And Pat and I worked on that. We talked about it. And he supported me, and he kind of guided me in a lot of ways. And he gave me a lot of encouragement to go for it and to be not to be afraid, you know, not to be afraid to be emotional. I'm this big macho guy, but not to be to be who you are in a way, because I am like that. I'm you know, I have a lot of, with the loss and stuff like that, there's a lot of part of me that's vulnerable. So he said, Michael, that's your brilliance. He goes, that's what's beautiful, because you got this thing, but then you can be vulnerable. And he goes, not a lot of bad guys do that. He goes, and that's what you're doing, and it works. So he stood by. I never forget, he watched the scenes, and he was there with me, and came over, a little bit of one of those, a pinch on the cheek, and he's not even Italian. He goes, you did great, kid. And I was like, wow. Wow. It's just a supportive, wonderful actor. And just, I mean, guys, let's be honest. Cobra Kai is really great, but Mr. Miyagi is Karate Kid. He is. What he did, his performance. Think about the performance when he's crying about his past history, his family's history, and you know, reaching back to his own history. What a performance that was as a dramatic actor. And he was a comedian, but he was a great actor just generally.
Happy
generally.
days.
So he just was an amazing presence, and just you know, when you're working with people like that, and you know, you work with, you know, Michael Ironside or Pat or Christopher Walken or Bruce Willis or whoever, you know, you try to shut your mouth a little bit, and you try to learn, and you try to pick up things and ask questions in a nice way, so that you can grow as an artist. And Pat was surely always available, was surely always there, and was a leader. He was a leader. So I'm just really grateful for that time.
Yeah, did you keep in contact with Pat, or did you ever meet him?
Get-togethers, and then, you know, people, unfortunately, people move away or people get busy, and you know, got busy, and we for a long time, and then you start growing into other things, and you lose contact. And like for me, I went back to New York for several years after that. My father got ill, and he passed away, so I had to go back so I kind of got out of the business for a while. I disappeared, and went back to New York for about 4 or 5 years, and then came back and then tried to reboot the career. So, you know, Mr. Johnson, Pat, I used to train with Pat a long time ago. We kept in touch for a long time. And a funny story, Hillary and I, I'm a big Yankee fan. I'm not sure anybody out there is a Yankee fan, but if you're not, too bad. I'm a Yankee fan. But we went I'll never forget, her and I, we sat in the front row at Fenway Park, her and I. And it was wonderful. We laughed a lot. And I saw Chris Conrad, Eric, I saw him in Florida. Meanwhile, we're beating each other up, hating each other when we were working together. Then we see each other in Florida, like, oh, what's up? What's going on? How's everything? So that was amazing. He's a really wonderful person. And, you know, to be in that kind of place, dude, it's like, it's magical. It's a magical experience. And today it's magical. You know, just all the kids contacting me and being with you now, it's like reminiscing about an iconic period. It's just incredible.
Is it easy for you to kind of get back into that world again? I mean, that was, you know, 94, you know, almost, you know, 25, 30 years ago. Is it easy for you to, the way you're recapping these stories, it sounds like it was yesterday.
Well, it was, because you know what? I call them markers in your life. And there's certain things in your life, there's a time and a place in your life where you don't forget something. Something happens and there's something wrapped around it. So one of those things was the loss of my mother.
Yeah.
So I always recollect God gave me a gift to help me get through a grueling time when I was struggling, with a present saying, hey, here's a little leaf for you to try to get on your feet. Financially, artistically, emotionally. So that's why I remember this so fondly and so much, because it took me out of a dark time and picked me up by my bootstraps and made me a man and really helped me. And not only that, economically it helped me. Financially, it helped me to, get out of a car. I was sleeping in a car in an apartment with no furniture, and got me into a place where I can have a little roof over my head. So, that's why I remember it so fondly,
Yeah, no, I feel like, you're able to kind of, bring in part of yourself into these roles, and maybe that's why you're such a badass.
Thank you. A lot of people say that to me. It's like, Michael, you're intense, and you're so passionate. Yeah, it's I think as an actor and your experiences make you, and those are the things you reach for as an artist. Obviously you have a technique, but I think the experiences and the not to be afraid of anything and to jump in to be brave is what makes you an artist. And I think that's what I try to do. And I'm good or bad, fail, and trust me, I fail a lot. Jumping in, I don't have a fear of jumping in. I go in with everything I have. The soul, the heart, the guts, anything I do, I just go. So that's who I am.
And Michael, also too, I mean, along with a lot of the motion pictures that you did, you also did a lot of TV spots. NYPD.
Yeah.
We mentioned Sopranos earlier. It's funny, I mentioned Sopranos, and today happens to be James Gandolfini's birthday.
The best ever to do it,
on there,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
A great Italian-American actor. Wonderful actor. I mean, what a presence. I don't know if you know the actor Lee J. Cobb, if you remember him. Anyway, he's an old-time actor. Whenever I saw James, I said, wow, he is like an iconic actor in our time. He has such a presence and such a way and such a thing about him that, I mean, there's a funny story about Sopranos. I think maybe you asked me that once before, but I was supposed to do 3 or 4 episodes with that, and I think we got into that conversation and something happened. But to work with, even with, Paulie was a character. He was. I was laughing. I was laughing so hard, And I don't know if I told you, but I'm afraid of heights, so they made me go up in that tree.
That was you in the tree?
That was me, and I was panic stricken because when I went to Newark, I flew in from LA. I went to Newark, and I thought we were going to be shooting, cutting, from a tree in the backyard, like pruning a tree. And I end up, they go, no, the stunt guy goes, no, you got to go up here. And I'm like, what are you saying right now? What do you mean up there? He's like, it's a tree. It's 40 feet up. I said, no. He goes, no, we got to go here. So I had met the stunt double, and he was a great guy. His name was Jay, great guy. So I said, Jay, you got to help me, Jay. I can't. I'm afraid of heights, Jay. He goes, don't worry, we'll figure it out. So long story short, there was this thing. I went up, and there was like a little branch where you could sit in the branch. You know what I mean? And I could lean on the branch because I had to have a saw, goggles, put it on, hang from the tree, say, and I'm like, Jesus, they can't give me a part that I could just be on the ground talking to Paul. Anyway, we did the rehearsals, we got it set, and I was leaning into the tree. So now a week later, we go back, and now there's like 1,000 people out there, and I'm like, oh my God, all these people are staring at us, and I got to go up this tree again, and I'm scared to death. So right before lunch, I'm trying to psych myself up. They go, Michael, we're going to rehearse. Okay. So we go up, and they bring me up on like a little elevator thing, whatever. And I go up, and I get harnessed in, and okay, we're going to rehearse action. And I'm leaning in the tree, and the director goes, cut. Michael, what are you doing? I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, you can't lean in the tree. I said, well, that's how we rehearse. He goes, no leaning in the tree. He goes, you got to hang off the tree. That's why you got the brace. So he goes, we'll do it after lunch. You'll be the first up. So now I'm not eating lunch. I'm in my trailer thinking, oh my God, if I don't do this, I got 1,000 people watching me and I screw this up. This will be the end of me. So I go out there, I psych myself up. We go, boom, first take, hanging off that tree, said the dialogue, cut, perfect, we're moving on. So I got over my fear, even though I'm still deathly afraid, trust me.
Yeah,
Funny story.
I had a feeling that that was you in the tree because I was just kind of thinking back to Next Karate Kid, you know, with the suspending scene. That tree is a piece of cake.
Right? Right? Oh, you remember that scene? Oh, I don't want to, you know that story. I don't want to talk about that, but my wife will tell you, I have a thing with heights. Whenever we're in Italy or Sicily, wherever we are, I can't go up high. I'm very afraid. So Karate Kid 2, they got me climbing above this thing, and all of a sudden I look down and I freeze, and I'm holding on to this, and everybody's underneath me. I'm like, you got to pull me down. You got to pull me. They had to come and take me down. So, but getting back to Paulie Walnuts, it was funny because when I was on the ground, I never forget, he was kicking me and he's like taking my wallet. And I said, it's so hysterical. And then he takes the lawnmower. And that to me is classic. Classic.
He's all this classic. In the lawnmower as a down payment. And then it goes away and just puts it in his trunk. And the trunk doesn't close.
Exactly. He's driving down. You know what the funny thing was? Everywhere I go, they look at me. You're the guy from the tree. I said, yeah. He goes, oh my God, it was rated like an Esquire, like one of the funniest scenes in Sopranos. I was like, really? I was like, it's crazy. It's so funny. But he was great. Character, for sure.
No, what's great about The Sopranos, I mean, it's a drama, but it's so multidimensional with comedy, suspense, you know, scary. And it's funny how, you know, in this, like scenes like that, you know what I mean? Like, we're used to seeing guys get whacked instead of seeing guys get, you know, launched off trees.
Well, the funny thing is, after that, the next scene, I was supposed to be in a card game, all bandaged up.
Oh, that would have been good.
All around, and sitting at the card game, my arms broken, and sitting all banded up in the chair. That was what it was supposed to be. So, but you know, that was a great experience. And I had met Michael Imperioli we spent 6 months together in Last Man Standing, so I knew Michael, which was nice to see Michael again when I hadn't seen him in a few years. So that was great. So they were really fun, great to work with over there.
Awesome.
I'll tell you a story about David Chase. When I went for the audition, I was only in LA to show. I was showing my film, The Street Sweeper, at the Metropolitan Opera, and a friend of mine said, "I got you a meeting for Sopranos." Like, really? Because I was in LA and I could never get a meeting, so I got in, and I met Georgianne Walker. She was the casting director, Christopher Walken's wife. So I met her. But she goes, "You did Last Man Standing with my husband." I said, "Yeah." Blah. So I did this scene, and she goes, "Can you come back in an hour?" I was like, "Sure." So I'm driving around the city. I park my car, blah, blah, blah. I go back, and I go into the meeting, and the producer, David Chase, says to me, he goes, "Cavalieri," he goes, "Are you related to Felix Cavalieri from the Young Rascals?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Is that going to get me the job?" He goes, "No." I said, "Then I'm not related." But that was the scene. It was great. And then I was on Arthur Avenue. Maybe a week later, they called me, and I got the job. It was great.
Awesome.
Funny.
I personally would have loved to have seen you in some more episodes. I mean, I think you'd fit great with the Jersey Crew.
Yeah.
And especially since, you know, the Feech Lamonter role got sent back to jail.
Yeah.
It would have been cool to kind of see his nephew kind of, you know, take over, at least, you know, be part of that family and get in there.
Yeah. Maybe another time, right? Maybe somewhere else. We'll see.
Well, they're making a prequel movie. I think they're already wrapping up. But
yeah, I read about that. I tried to get in for that. I guess I wasn't good looking enough, I guess, or something. I couldn't get in the room. I wasn't, you know, I didn't fit the role. So whatever, you know, you move on.
Yeah. Michael, I did want to ask, so, you know, there's this new show that's just been, you know, catching wave. You know, it was #1 on Netflix for multiple weeks, and you know, the first episode that they had, which was on YouTube, which was over 100 million views. I think you know which show I'm alluding to, Cobra Kai.
Sure.
Which happens to deal with the same universe as the first 4 Karate Kids.
Right.
So have you had a chance to kind of well, first of all, have you heard anything about the show? And
yeah, I heard so many amazing things. You know, so many great things from people. It's a really a great time, actually, with all the stuff that's going on, the pandemic and people being home. And, you know, it's kind of reaches back a little bit to the 80s with music and stuff. And it's a little humorous. And it's a great idea. It's a great idea. And I think it's what I said to my wife today. I said, you know, it's funny. It's like we did a movie 25, 30 years ago. What does that tell you how great the concept is? that these kids are out there doing what they're doing, and they're great. And Ralph is doing wonderful with it, and Billy are doing great things. And I think it's a wonderful thing. You got a new group of guys coming up, trying to kick the old guys like me out. But I'm ready. I'm ready for any of those guys if they want to come after me. Let's do it. So I'm ready. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a great look. It's funny. It's got a fish out of water kind of thing, and the guy's growing and he's changing, and I think it's great. And from what I'm hearing from people, everybody likes it a lot. I think it's wonderful. I get calls now from a lot of people. I'm getting calls from Brazil and Spain and Italy. You know, can I do an interview? Sure, I love it. Just to be all of us to be together in this world, in this universe, I think is really incredible. We're all in it together. You know, it's just like this Marvel world, you know, like Marvel comics. Yeah. It's all mixed in, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, it's great.
And yeah, since I announced last week on our page that we were going to do this live Q&A, I had a bunch of folks, you know, first of all, messaging me saying like, "Hey, can you ask him this? Can you ask him that?" And I did take down some questions. Hope you don't mind if we do some Q&A from the fans.
My pleasure. They're gonna be nice, though, right? They're gonna be nice to me.
They're all.
But I know they hate me, but hopefully they'll be nice. But it's okay. It's all good. Let's do it.
And again, there was a tremendous uproar. You know, a lot of folks were saying like, you know, we want to bring Ned Randall back. We want to see him in Cobra Kai.
Wow.
So the fans want you back.
That's great. That's an honor. Thank you, fans. I'm ready, man. I'm in good shape too. I swear. I'm ready to roll. It would be an honor to be part of that show. Whatever they wanted, even if I just walked by and said hello, I'd be great. I'll be an extra for you. No, it would be a great fun for me.
Excellent, awesome. So I did take down some questions from the fans. The first one, we kind of talked about this earlier, but do you see Ned as a bad guy?
No, I see Ned as a confused young adult that was trying to figure it out and kind of got almost mentally manipulated by Dugan, trying to find a place. He didn't have a good home. He wasn't raised well at home. He didn't have a father figure, and I think he gravitated to Dugan and didn't understand who he was, and he just went with this place because he needed the discipline. He needed that. And then when he meets Miyagi at the end, he starts to realize, he sees it, how pathetic this is. How pathetic he is. Bullying a girl, being a bully, bringing friends.
Yeah.
That's not a man. So in that moment, I believe he wanted to be better, and he broke away from Dugan and wanted to grow and wanted to be maybe a mentor for a younger kid or somebody else, to be a teacher. And he reached to Miyagi, and that's the moment I was talking about earlier, that he reached to Miyagi for some fatherly advice or to acceptance and maybe guidance. And I think that's what I see.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the entire gang, the entire crew, just at the end of the movie, I think the line that was spoken, you know, to Dugan, you know, you used to have all the answers, but like you just saw that, you know, he was a phony in the flesh.
Right.
And
yes.
Everyone kind of walked away, and it kind of felt like they were following Mr. Miyagi. Like I was kind of hoping.
They were. I was.
Right.
I was. I made that choice as an actor, trying to be for the guy. You know, I was a young guy too, and you see friends go to a different place or go to a bad place, and I always try to avoid that. But this particular Ned didn't know how to do that. He had to be in a group. If he wasn't in a group, he was a failure. He had to be with a group. He couldn't be one-on-one and he was afraid to be emotional, to be honest, one-on-one. It scared him. So he needed that group of guys, you know, around him to feel strong or to feel like a bully. And I think I remember that, walking away and thinking, yeah, I'm going with Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah. So that kind of leads into the next question. What is Ned Randall doing today?
Ned Randall is getting ready to go to Cobra Kai. I think he's spreading the good word. He's a guy who's maybe a teacher, maybe a guidance counselor, helps underprivileged youth, or maybe he has his own school. and maybe he's working with kids and
Yeah.
teaching kids to be better, or kids that are drug addicted kids or bullies or whatever that is. He's a mentor in a different way, and I think from that moment at the end of the movie, I think that's what happens. He grows in that way, and he has his own family and raises a family, and I think that's how it is. That's my interpretation of him.
I mean, you got Boston, with the next Karate Kid, and Ralph, Daniel's character is from Jersey. Who knows? Maybe they met at a pizzeria at some point and introduced him to Miyagi-Do.
Why not? Or maybe they met. I was thinking, like, maybe he goes and pays his respects to Mr. Miyagi. He's here, and he goes and pays his respects to somebody who maybe taught him a lesson when he was a kid and helped him out of a dark place. Yeah. And maybe that's where he runs into somebody. Yep. Maybe Ralph or somebody else, or maybe Johnny. Don't even know Johnny. Maybe they're sitting there. Who knows? Yeah. It's bizarre, but these things. Listen, I travel all over the world, and I'll be in Sicily, and I'll meet somebody who knew somebody else from over there, and it's like, wow. Everything can happen. So that could be an interesting thing.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. We all want to see you come back to Cobra Kai, and I think we're all excited. And if you see where the finale of the last episode of Cobra Kai season 2, anything's possible, right?
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
I'm ready. What do you think? You think I'm ready?
I think you're ready. I mean, I saw you. I mean, you're still in very good shape. I wouldn't want to mess with you, and I'm sure none of the Cobra Kai or Miyagi don't want to mess with you. So maybe Ned, starts his own. I think it was called the Alpha.
Alpha Elite.
Alpha.
Yeah. My feeling is that what? Maybe they get into a street brawl. I don't know, and then all of a sudden they realize, who knows what's going to happen? But you know what? It's always good to revisit. Let's revisit it. It'd be great. Great fun. We'll see.
So now kind of going back into, the what if or the fantasy questions. So in Karate Kid 1, you had Johnny Lawrence and Kreese. Karate Kid 3, you had Mike Barnes and Terry Silver.
Sure.
Between the three, we got Daniel and Mr. Miyagi. And then in 4, we got Dugan and Ned. Street fight. Which team comes out alive?
No question. You have to ask that question. Where's Mike Barnes? I'll take him out in front of the house right now if he wants. Not a problem. I'm ready.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, just these would be some good matchups if we ever get to see.
You know what? It's different, and why it's different, because I think ours is grittier in a way. It was more street. It wasn't in the dojo like you said. So I think that would be interesting. I remember Rocky, they had the street fight. That was kind of cool. And they took it outside.
One more round.
One more round. One more round. Listen, we fight to the death. What do? We go. Yeah. Come on, let's go. Let's do it. One more round. I'm ready for you.
Excellent. No, thank you for answering those. Those were the top questions that I got from the fans. I want to get into Ritornato, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing it. How do you say it properly?
Ritornato. Ritornato means the returned.
The returns, yeah. And this is as I mentioned earlier. I mean, this is a autobiographical movie.
Yes.
Directed, starred. I had the privilege of getting an opportunity to see this movie, and this was phenomenal. Can't wait for the rest of the folks to get a chance.
Thank you.
Already won a ton of awards.
Yes.
Very, very. And again, what we talked about earlier, is a film that's multi-dimensional. I mean, it'll make you cry. It'll make you laugh.
I think you cried for a minute there. I think you were crying because I was crying. Maybe that's what it was.
It was just there's so many scenes that are just it kind of, like, for me, I don't want to get into too many details, but it just reminded me when I was in a similar circumstance.
Wow.
It felt like it related, and there's a message in the movie as well.
Yeah.
It was just extremely wonderful. First of all, privileged to even be able to see that, and
Thank you very much.
just
Thank you.
a lot of heart.
Yes, my whole heart and soul.
There. I do want to ask though, because again, I mean, you flew to Italy to film this. Kind of, what was that? What was that journey like? What's it like to make a movie?
That was madness in its sense. And let me give you a little backstory. So I never wrote before. I never, I did, obviously I acted. I never directed before. But when I went to Sicily the first time, to my town, Limina, yo, Limina, I love you. I love you all in Sicily, in Santa Teresa, all my guys there. I love you very much. I was touched deeply setting foot on my grandfather's land. When I saw the sign, I broke down. And then I went back several times, and then I started to discover that I wanted to write about this experience because it hit me so hard in the soul. And I couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake this feeling of how, when you lose your mom and your sister and your father, you feel like you're lost. And Sicily made me feel at home. I was home. And so I wrote the screenplay. I wrote the story. And I won a award from the Russo brothers, who are the
Avengers.
producers of the Russo brothers from the Endgames and Marvels.
Yeah, the Avengers.
So, the Avengers, and I won this beautiful grant award, and I set forth on a journey, and I said to my wife, I said, everybody tells me I can't do this, but I'm doing it. Never having done it before. I never directed before. I never wrote anything before. I don't even speak fluent Sicilian. So how am I going to do this? But you find a way to do it. And I went. And with my great friend Fabrizio, ciao in Santa Teresa, my cugino Turi, du alla Brandi, Peppino, tutti Siciliani, I love you. With all their help, I would never be able to do anything without them, number one. And then, of course, my beautiful wife. But we practiced and we talked, and every day we would talk, and you know what? We got it done. It was a crazy experience. We shot in 5 days, which is unheard of, and we were ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And I had a translator in the movie. Then I had a translator with me, Giuseppe, a friend.
Giuseppe.
So he would translate. Yeah, he would translate from Fabrizio to me, to the cinematographer, and we did it. And you want to know something? It was the greatest experience of my life. It shows on the screen. Every actor in that film is phenomenal. Everyone. Federico steals your soul, and you know that. Federico is brilliant.
Yeah.
The little boy who plays me. I got to tell you, I was expecting it to be really, really hard, and it wasn't. It wasn't. It was hard work. It was hard work.
Yeah.
But when you love something so much, and you want to do something so much, and you want to fight for it so much, it's joy, it's love. And every day we laughed, and every day we went to the set, we had a great time. Every day we met for meals, we had a great time. And I can't wait to go back and shoot it. We have 2 more projects going back there that I'm going to shoot, and I can't wait to do it with my same cast, same crew. I'm going to use all the same people in different parts.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's what I could say about the people in Sicily is that they're humble and kind. And they open their arms and their hearts, and they accept you, and they bring you in. They bring me to their house. They accept me like one of their own. And that to me is the most magical thing. So I do whatever I can do in my heart to help them. I'll promote my film till no end, because I promote Limina, I promote Santa Teresa, I promote Sicily, I promote the great culture. Splendid Sicily is a company now that I'm working with, that I'm on the board of. And if you want to go on a great vacation, or you want to learn about culture, Splendid Sicily is a great place. So I have people all over the world that are Sicilian, and now they're reaching out to me, and it's unbelievable. I didn't work for many years, and then all of a sudden I did something from the heart, and all the doors open. And you find the people that are in the same area you are. You find them. You don't think they're there and then once you start opening the door, you realize they're there. This one calls, this one calls, this one is to interview you. And you know what, Zaya? Honestly, this was not meant. This is not about money. This was never about money for me. I used my own money. Whatever money I had, I was going to sell my house. My wife would throw me out. But no, but I used my own money, a lot of it. But it didn't matter because it was worth every penny. And is what I think we discussed is that the greatest decision I ever made as an artist was to write. Not to wait. I waited too long. I should have wrote a long time ago. But now I'm writing, and it's creating stuff for myself and things that I believe in. And so Ritornato came from this incredible experience of going to a place that I never knew before and meeting my grandfather's brother, who I didn't even know existed. And then all of a sudden, here I am with this whole new family who opened their hearts to me and took me as one of their own. And then we're so close now. We talk all the time. We all yap. We call, you know, we talk Facebook. We do this, we do that. And then my cousin Turi's in the movie, and people that I know. It's incredible. So it was magical.
And you guys were working on this movie in one of the hottest summers in July in Italy.
Yeah. Well, when I won the grant, they told me I had to finish the film by September 1st. My original plan was start the film on September 15th. So I'm like, oh no, I got to call Fabrizio. I got to figure out. And you know, the Sicilians are a little bit, they like to take their time. They're a little slow. They want to have siesta and break, brioche and cafe. So, but we got it together. And man, it was 115 degrees like the first day.
Wow.
And in one of the scenes, you could see my neck, like it was red as a beet. Like, oh my God. Matter of fact, in post-production, they had to tamper it down a little bit and color it in. But yeah, it was hot. And a lot of the crew was struggling. But, you know, I'm a warrior, kid. I'll go out. I'll do it. I was shoveling dirt. I was, you know, giving people coffee, whatever it was. We do it. It was for me, like, it was an honor for me to help them. So, and they were doing such a great job for me that whatever it was, whatever we needed to do, like my wife did everything. She was the locations manager, the costume girl, the script supervisor, the producer, a great actress, as you know, as you saw, beautiful, funny, and you know, she did everything. So yeah, it was a hot couple of days, but we made it through.
I think I already know the answer to this, but you mentioned there was, you know, 5 days and roughly a week of shooting. But was there ever a time, and just, you know, honestly, you know, was there ever a time where you felt like you were in over your head, this thing's not going to get done?
No.
Maybe we need to start over?
No.
You knew from beginning, huh?
Yeah, I knew.
Yeah.
I knew because I prepared. And there's something I believe in my life is that if you prepare, and I prepared every day. Remember, I'm not a director. I'm not a writer, but I'm an actor.
Yeah.
I prepared shots. I talked to people that I knew. And I prepared every shot that I wanted as a director that I saw. And my wife wrote every shot next to every scene. I broke it down. And I would go over it. I would study it like a script and study what I would tell them when they would come in and say, guys, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to rehearse. And I planned it. I strategized. So I knew that I was going to be okay. The question was, were they going to be okay? Yeah. So my cousin, who I love dearly, Turi, he's a real character. The best. He has a panini truck on the beach. He's the best. But anyway, he said, cousin, no problem. I do it, no problem. So I go, you read the script? See, no problem. I said, okay. I said, Fabrizio, you read the script? No problem. He's good. I said, okay. So I get to Sicily. I never forget. We get there at night, and I drive to his panini truck. It's the first place I go when I go. Cugino, he goes, I got the script. I said, okay, let's read it. He goes, no problem. He puts it down. He puts his glasses on, and he starts to read. I'm like, oh, my God. Turi, see me tomorrow at the apartment. We need to rehearse. He goes, rehearse, why? I said, cousin, you don't know anything. You have no idea. No, I said, rehearse tomorrow. So we rehearsed for 4 days straight. And I remember all the actors came, and I remember him saying, he kept screwing up the lines. And he goes, because he's not, you know, fluent in English, but he speaks. He goes, it's like bloopers. He says bloopers. He goes, bloopers.
Oh, man.
But you want to know something? Bloopers. But you want to know something? He was beautiful in this movie.
Yeah.
He did a great job. And Salvatore, all my actors, Luisa, Federico, Pino, tutti, Maria, Teresa, Rizzo, all my actors, my wife, come on, Maurizio, my guys, number one. Yeah. Everyone, great. And they worked at it, and we did great work as a family. So that was the only time I got, all right, hold on a second. Am I going to make it? But I said to my wife, I said, you know what, listen, if it goes down and we can't, and they forget the lines, we just put the camera on us. We just shoot on us. And then we'll figure out how to cut it. We'll cut from the back of our head and we'll take something over there. So, you know, we got it done. We figured it out. So, yeah, it was great.
I don't want to give away too much, but there's a tomato. There's tomatoes in the movie. One of the most juiciest tomatoes that I've ever seen. Long story short, you know, I went and decided to plant some tomatoes in my garden. My dad's like, the season's almost over. but and you have tomatoes all over your backyard as well too. And then kind of going back, you know, there was a symbol with the tomato.
Yes.
Yes. The grandson and the grandpa.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I know it was kind of what was uniting them as well. But
yes, that was the thing that through generations, and also, hold on a second, and also this here.
Oh, that's the hat.
The Coppola cap. My Coppola cap.
That's the hat.
This is actually my father's cap, but we use it in the film. And this is my grandfather's hat in the film. It goes from generation to generation. So my young Vincent Federico, my grandfather wears it, Pino. Agatino Alabrandi is my grandfather. He gives it to young Vincent Federico. He wears it. And then I bring it with me to Sicily. And when I leave, there's another generation. So it's just this thing that kind of keeps us all together. It weaves us together. It's really special. And this is my papa's hat, my papa, my dad. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see. I know you mentioned you're working on potentially a sequel, maybe even a third part. I can't wait to see where you go with the story. I'm really looking forward to it. I did want to ask, you know, again, because these are, as you know, these are crazy times what we've been going through the last 6 months.
Sure.
What advice do you have to any aspiring actors, filmmakers? I mean, you're you know, obviously you've been in the business now for you know, over 30 years.
Oh my God.
What
That's frightening.
I didn't mean to make you seem old.
No.
But what advice would you give to anyone that's up and coming, that wants to get into acting, that wants to get into screenwriting? What advice would you give to someone today?
Well, it's like I said earlier, I think the thing that really, really opened up for me was when I started to write, when I started to create my own process and create my way. And my wife gets mad, but I scribble in a notebook and I write. That's how I write, but I jot. And it's funny story. Years ago, about 15, 16 years ago, I was writing in this little book called The Artist's Way. It's a book about, you know, it just helps you get past certain situations in your life and you write creative things, called The Artist's Way. And I was writing this one-man show that I wanted to do. But I wasn't brave enough to do it. Or I wasn't ready enough to do it. So we got married, we bought a house, and I started moving things out of boxes, and I found, we went to Italy, and I started writing, and then we came home one time, and we started going through some boxes, and I opened up The Artist's Way, and The Artist's Way had exactly 15, 20 years earlier, what I had written in the script, word for word, was exactly the same. It was incredible. It was like video. I couldn't believe that I actually wrote exact scenes that what I wanted to do, and I just couldn't pursue it. So being creative, being fearless, being ciao Maurizio, being ciao Sicily, being aggressive in a way that is creative, like you and I talked about screenwriting. I have a friend of mine, my executive producer, Peter Schenk, who's one of the most talented people I ever met in my life, and he helped me through this whole process. But anyway, there's a couple of people, because I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just writing from instinct and from the soul, and that's all I know.
Yeah.
And so I got the courage one time. I said, Peter, you want to take a look at this? And I was expecting him to like say, no, I don't. He goes, no, let me take a look at it. So I sent it to him, and he called me and he said, Mikey, he goes, did you ever write before? I said, no. He goes, wow. He goes, now, he goes, you got problems here. He goes, you got some problems here with this thing. He goes, but what you have is brilliant. What you have is so honest and real. And what I would love to tell a young actor, if I was a young actor today, if I was a young, handsome actor, I would say, work on your craft, learn a couple of languages, and write. Write things for yourself. Write vehicles that you believe in for yourself. Because as we know, in this business, when I started out, they would typecast as Italian American. For me, I'm a Sicilian American. So, and I would fight against that all the time. It would frustrate me very much because I have a college degree. I come from, my mother was a wonderful woman. I'm articulate. I know how to speak, all the above. And they kept saying, well, you know, Italian Americans, I don't want to play these parts. I want to do something that means something. So I went off and did like a movie, a family, The Stonecutter, which was a brilliant film that won several awards, Santa Barbara, which was just, it could have been any family. It could have been an Asian family, an African-American family, didn't matter. It happened to be an Italian family, but the core of the story was any family. And that's what I looked for as an artist. But what happens is, unfortunately, you get caught in this wheel of doing these smaller films, and you lose kind of the popularity in the generic TV land.
Yeah.
So like I didn't want to do certain shows. And then I said, well, I better start doing something. If I'm going to make some money, I got to try. So I always had that battle. And then I finally said, you know what? They're not paying you really much to do anything anymore. So just write your own things. And if you do it for no money, what's the difference? You do it out of love. And then you don't approach, is what I tell a young actor, you don't approach it from a point of view of, I want to be famous, I want to get paid a lot of money. You do it from the approach is that this something means something to me.
Yep.
And no matter what happens, it resonates.